I'm transforming my orange C6 Corvette into a black Metallica Racing Livery Corvette. This is the rear passenger quarter panel. So basically I cut out the wheel well, you pre-cut that stuff out so you don't have too much material. Kind of going to glass it here, just kind of spread it over the quarter panel. Pretty much glass most of it out. Now, back in the day when I used to wrap a lot, this had been about a 15-minute quarter panel. But the interesting thing about a C6 versus my old C7 Corvette, I think it had it too, actually. It had something like this, my C7 Corvette did, where the door handle is. But because it was red and I had it red camouflage, I just kind of cut it out and the red blended in. As I squeegee out, after I glassed most of it, squeegee it out, put my glove on, kind of go around the turn signal light, which I taped over so when I cut it, I wouldn't be cutting on any plastic or anything. But the big deal with these is that door handle area. And I've never done a C6, some C5s, some C7s. But I've seen a few people online and how they did it. And I know how Justin on the Rap Institute did it once. I think he was doing some inlays, but he was also using chrome, which doesn't conform as much. So I thought I'd go ahead and try it once, since I'm using Avery Dennison and it has some pretty good stretch to it, and try to do it one piece. And if I didn't do it one piece, that was fine. I'd just redo it. But got to get this little bubble out here, and plus I have some wrinkles up at the top, so I probably fix those. And I could pull the heat gun out real quick and fix those. Yeah, I do. It was like 95 degrees outside, so it was easy to get some wrinkles in there. And some zippers, actually, so I had to kind of smooth that out and just kind of lay it down softly, squeegee it out. But what I'm actually trying to do here, because Avery Dennison is a little bit different of a vinyl and it has that cold pre-stretch, is I'm trying to pull from my left hand here and try to stretch it that way to give me more material in where that gap is, that big recess is where the door handle goes. I'm going to try to do it in one piece and not do inlays or overlays or whatever. So I'm kind of stretching it without a heat gun, just, and hoping it'll hold. But what I'm doing is giving myself extra material in there, so when I do stretch it, it's stretching with more material versus less, and maybe it'll hold it. So that's kind of what I'm doing here, just slowly kind of pulling it until I get to where I like it, stretching it from, again, my left hand, almost twisting it and turning it to go in there. I squeegee it down. Kind of takes me a few tries here to kind of get it to where I want. Now I do the bottom. I can't remember if I did the bottom much at all. A little bit. I think I pulled a little bit. Essentially pulled up. It's basically, you're creating too much material. Yeah, I'm doing that there. I'm actually pulling up. You can't really see it because my fat back's in the way. But then I finish out kind of the bottom. But I'm kind of pulling up to give it. You can see where that material kind of sags where the door handle is. And that's done on purpose, so I have extra material to kind of lay it in. So just finishing up the bottom here. Now what would have made this extra fast is if my car would have been black. But since it's orange, and I didn't really want to show much black, or I'm sorry, since it was orange and I didn't want to show much orange, I really wanted to go deep. So I really unhooked my quarter panel. So as you can see, it's loose. That way I can really get deep on it so you wouldn't see much orange at all, if any, except in the door wells. This is a 2x speed, but actually it went a lot faster than I thought. I thought it would take a lot longer, but give it a little heat there, let it cool down a little bit. Kind of getting it to the edges, right? And then just slowly kind of work it on. I put my glove on here, heat it up a little bit more, and I slowly kind of work it down from the edges. A lot of vinyls probably wouldn't be able to do this. Some maybe would, and the more loose vinyl you get in there, the better. But knowing Avery really well, I thought I'd give this a shot. So I'm just kind of working it down, a little bit of heat, touch of heat there, working it down. Trying to work it at the steepest points first. I think the top was the steepest, so I kind of did the top first. Now, the one problem I was going to have, so you can see there I pretty much got it, is up there at the top of it and at the bottom of it, because there's just way too much material. I mean, I would love to see somebody do this whole quarter panel in one piece. I just don't think you could because you'd have to have so much extra material and it would way overstretch it. But the door handle area was my main focus because that's what you would see. Now the other section up there, the top of it where it flattens out again, is kind of behind the door anyway, but I knew I could just cut that out and put a piece over it, an overlay on it, and you'd barely notice. But that whole door handle where it slides down underneath there, I didn't want to see lines, and I thought it'd be cool to see lines. So I'm checking with my light there to see if there's any wrinkles, because with black it's really hard to see that when you get shadows. So you can see I'm kind of smoothing that down. What I eventually do is kind of cut that out and then put an overlay on it. But the main piece was right there where my fingers are, and that whole I don't know what you call it, dip. So on the bottom it's not as bad as the top. I'm able to really just work all the vinyl in, so it's one solid piece. It just takes a while because it's little by little again. Haven't done this in a couple years. And really trying to get it to relax so it'll hold. Now this is, I probably did these 6 months ago. I guess it's now December, late December, and I did this back in April, and everything is held. I haven't had anything pull up yet. So I'm very, very satisfied with the result, and I'm very surprised that a little bit surprised that it held, but it did hold. But I don't know if I'd recommend other people do it this way. If you have a C6 Corvette or C7, I think it's might have a lot more to do with the vinyl. Other vinyls have a lot of other positive qualities to it, but for really conformability and doing it by yourself, Avery Dennison's pretty great. 3M's pretty great. It's a very cast film, which means it conforms really well. So here's where I said it. You're not going to get that piece to. There's just too much vinyl there. So I'm just trying to get it down as far as I can, relax it so it won't pull up, and then I just kind of trim it out lightly with a knife, and then put a patch over it essentially. And you can't tell. Plus it's behind the door. And again, since I'm trying to go so deep, there's a lot of extra little things I'm doing to tuck it underneath everything so you wouldn't see any orange. I mean, wraps aren't meant to look like paint jobs. Paint jobs aren't perfect, even from the factory. But it's extremely difficult to get a completely perfect vinyl because the paint's never perfect. So just tuck it underneath the wheel well here, and then I'll eventually cut that and trim that out and try to cover all the orange, which only goes up just a little bit behind the wheel. Here I pull the quarter panel out so I can tuck it way underneath there and make sure you don't see any black. Again, it takes a lot of extra time to do that. And then to make sure you get it aligned right. But again, it was because it was orange. I really wanted to hide the orange. I really wanted to go deep. What I'm doing here is kind of a final tuck before I pull the string or cut as far as I can to cover all the orange. So I just make sure I just cut, or so I make sure I just tuck it and retuck it again to make sure I'm gonna get it as far in as I can. And then I trim it out, take out my light to make sure I'm getting everything where I need it to be. The seam of the quarter panel, where the quarter panel meets the rear bumper, essentially, I tuck. This is a tuck and cut, right? It's a nice seam, so I just tuck it again, tuck it again. You want as much vinyl in there as possible. You use that tape so it doesn't stick to the paint on the other side of the corner, so you can really get it tucked in there well. And then you just cut in the gap, right? You're not actually cutting on paint because there's a gap in there, a seam between the two quarter panels. You angle your blade a little bit to get it on the opposite side, to give yourself just a little more vinyl to cover everything. And it's just a nice light touch. So even if I pushed really hard, it wouldn't even hit anything. It would just go between the two quarter panels. And I use my little tucker blade here just to make sure everything's tucked as far as I can. And this seam curves, and at some points the quarter panel pops out just a little bit more. At some points the bumper pops out a little bit more. So it's not as a seamless cut as you would like. So you just really gotta, that's why I keep checking to make sure where the seam is, if one side's popped out more than the other, because I don't want to mess anything up. Finish it out here, finish around the wheel well. So I tucked around the light as much as I could, put tape on there so I could get a start, and then I tuck it again, tuck and cut, heat everything up, check everything, check all the seams. I'm a little OCD with finishing. That's where it can take a lot of time, not as fast as I used to be. But finished it up. That's the rear corner, looked pretty good. And again, the door well is still good after 6 months. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There'll be more videos coming out of the car transformation. If you have any questions, let me know.